Hello folks, I'm Rachel from Douentza Garden in Ireland, and you're very welcome to this video all about the rare and unusual plants that I grow in the glass house here behind me. So I also have a greenhouse where I carry out propagations and seed sowing and all that fun stuff I know you love. If you're new to the channel, know that I garden in what roughly equates to as hardiness zone 9, although we don't use that system here in Ireland. And what that means in practical terms is that in winter I need to put heat into the glass house to keep my subtropicals alive. I need to heat it to a minimum of 5 degrees centigrade, that's 41 Fahrenheit. However, it's summer now, it's August, it's a wonderful time, and I have so many things coming into flower that I can't wait to share with you. So let's get on with the video. Before we venture into the glass house, I just want to show you these two giants that I have here in the greenhouse step. The first here is the Sparmannia africana, which is generally grown for its very large, beautiful leaves. Unfortunately, however, mine doesn't seem to be getting the big leaves this year, not sure why. But it flowers also in winter with pretty white flowers that kind of brighten up any winter space. This beauty, on the other hand, is an alocasia, which I grew from a berry many years ago, in 2014 to be precise. So this is an old lady of the greenhouse that has survived in a big pot for a very long time. Now, last year it didn't produce as many big leaves, but this year, oh my goodness, just look at it. It's looking fantastic. And also bear in mind that last winter this plant flowered. It produced a flower that didn't do very well because of course it was deadly winter, but it did flower. And well, I'm so surprised because if you read what people have written in various places, they say that this plant tends to die after flowering in captivity, but not mine. Oh no. Okay, let's go into the greenhouse. And here on the inside we have one of my favourite plants, absolutely another giant, the fantastic cabbage tree or Robinson Crusoe palm, which has these enormous great leaves. And again, like the alocasia, has put on an enormous growth spurt this year, just growing loads and loads of leaves to a fantastic size. I wonder, is it the fertiliser I've been giving them? In any case, it's doing quite well, but I did notice recently that the trunk seemed a little bit wobbly and the whole plant just that little bit unstable, and it started to lean, which is an indication that the roots aren't great. So I've staked it, and I just need to be careful not to overwater this. I wonder, have I been overwatering it? This fantastic tree gets its name from the novel about Robinson Crusoe that was written many moons ago. And unfortunately, the author, he mixed up a couple of islands in the Pacific and put this cabbage tree on the island that Robinson Crusoe was supposed to have had his whole adventure, where in fact this one comes from a different island. This plant was gifted to me by a friend a few years back who grew it from seed. So it is quite feasible to grow from seed if you can get your hands on it. It does well in a pot with just kind of ordinary compost, and I overwinter it frost free, so 5 degrees centigrade or 41 Fahrenheit minimum. Like I said, it's growing a lot this year, and I put that down to the feeding regime that I introduced last year really for it and for the alocasias. I've been using a seaweed fertilizer by Ocean Leaves, a company called Ocean Leaves, and I find it really excellent. The reason why this tree is called cabbage tree is because the leaves are edible, and in fact Robinson Crusoe eats the leaves in his fictional novel. I don't advise it, I've never tried it, and my goodness, I will kill anybody who tries to remove the leaves from my beautiful plant. It's taken so much to get it to this stage that we certainly don't want to be stripping it. And just over here from the cabbage tree with the sparmannia behind me, we have a salvia, a beautiful salvia with these fantastic pink flowers that has actually proved hardy for me outdoors. So I took some cuttings of this plant last spring and planted them out in the garden and forgot to lift them last winter, and they came through and they're growing. Now they haven't managed to get to any size this year and they certainly haven't flowered, but it's certainly worth bearing in mind if you have this salvia to experiment with leaving it outdoors, because if you can get a nice big bushy plant like this outdoors in your border, well, that's just fantastic, isn't it? There is something you may be seeing just behind. See that gorgeous, gorgeous orange flower? And this is a canna called Cleopatra. So it is one with chocolate foliage, or I should say more correctly, green and chocolate foliage. And it produces flowers. Now, I must tell you that it is quite variable, and I was gifted this plant a few years ago, actually by the same friend who gave me the cabbage tree. One plant flowered earlier on this year with yellow flowers, and this one which has the best chocolate foliage colouring, has flowered now, but with orange flowers. I find that really quite unusual, that the same cultivar can have different coloured flowers, but it does. And while we're on the subject of the big boys in the greenhouse, here's another plant that's planted directly in the border, in the soil at the side. And this behind the salvia is another canna basically, but it's one with leaves that look like a banana, hence the name Canna musifolia. And I really have to say that this plant single-handedly has added to the tropical vibe here in the glasshouse. It just grows so big and lush, and thankfully this year the slugs didn't find it when it was young. So it is a great big clump now with lots and lots of culms. I'm going to have to divide it in autumn. As you can see, I've sited my little table just right beside the large canna, so that if I sit out here of a morning to have my breakfast, I can feel that I'm surrounded by tropical lush planting and just imagine myself away somewhere else. This is really useful in days when it's very cloudy and overcast and rainy, and we in Ireland need that perk occasionally. Yeah. This is a great spot to sit in and just plan my next botanic adventure. I do hope this winter to go somewhere else interesting and see fantastic plants in the wild. Now, you may be wondering what this is beside me. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. This is Musschia, a fantastic plant, and we have a flowering event here. Now, this plant has gone over ever so slightly since I took a video clip of it just recently at its height. And now I will show you that clip and show you exactly how magnificent it looked. I'm delighted to share my flowering event with you. The fabulous Musschia wollastonii has come into flower in my greenhouse. Musschia wollastonii is a species of flowering plant in the Campanula family. It's endemic to Madeira Island, where it grows in scattered locations between 400 and 900 metres elevation, mostly on the northern slope. It grows in humid valleys in the shade of laurel forests. It's not hardy in Ireland, but this is my second time growing this plant to flowering. I was gifted this seedling in June 4 years ago, and I planted it here in the greenhouse border 2 years later. The plant's leaves look amazing up until the point when it flowers, and then they wither. My Musschia is a mass of yellow-green flowers, loved by pollinating wasps and giving the impression of a glorious Christmas tree in summer. Musschia is monocarpic, so it will die after flowering, but it is self-fertile, so should produce masses of seed, which I'll happily share with channel members. Just to the right of the Musschia, we have my King Protea. Now, this is in the border, but it's in a clay pot that's been sunk because this is a plant that needs a bit more drainage than some of the other plants you've seen so far. It's not its flowering season, but it's growing well. And just to the right of it, we have a series of shelves or a plant stand that holds my Sobralia giant orchid, which isn't in flower at the moment, so I won't dwell too long on it. This orchid produces lots of flowers over the course of the summer, each one lasting just a day in the same way as a day lily might. And I think it's come to the end of its flowering now. This stand also holds my Cymbidium orchids. So you can see what a dull summer we've had, generally speaking, by the fact that the Cymbidium foliage is quite green, quite deep green, despite being in full sun for most of the summer. And I can see the same with the likes of epiphyllums, which have been in full sun. They are much more lush green this year than they were last year, when a lot of them got quite bleached. And then finally over here in the corner we have a number of gingers. I'm going to do a complete overhaul of the gingers this autumn and take out a lot of them because they really are taking over the place. I will keep the Hedychium greenii because that's a reliable flower for me, and so I'm not going to get rid of all of it. But here we can see my Tibucina, my variegated Tibucina, which has grown really strong this year and is producing beautiful purple flowers. This Tibucina is planted in the soil, in the ground, and it's really come into its own this year. Here at the very back, the view is a bit confusing, but because we see through the glass into the greenhouse behind. But here we have some great plants, like my tree crinum. This plant has done so well since I bought it, and I highly recommend it to anybody who has an indoor space for it during the winter. I haven't yet experimented with leaving it in the greenhouse over winter. Now, this has flowered for me this summer, but also last December. And if you want more information about how to grow it, then I did make a separate video, which I'll link to at the very end. Beside it, we have one of my Caudex plants. In fact, the queen of my collection. So this is Ibervillea. This is a fantastic succulent plant from the deserts in Mexico and the south of the States. It is a climber, and these foliage that you see here would normally grow up if given a support, but otherwise they just hang down, and I just love it. It's so big and it's so quirky and it's so fantastic. It's grown well this year, but not as well as last year, where it was just sprouting greenery all over the place. On the shelf over here we have my epiphyllums, and you can see immediately how this one, Oxypetalum, is much greener than it was last year. So last year the foliage turned a very, very yellowish colour just from too much light. However, having said that, it did produce a bud last year and it hasn't done that this year. Down below we have my Aloha and Haworthia collection, which I've covered just with this cloth to screen them from the worst of the sun. Oh, the worst of the sun, I live in hope. And you can see down below how some of them have benefited greatly from the extra shade. So in my last greenhouse tour video, you'll have noted that green ice, some of the smaller green ice plants were a very yellowish colour. They're now beautifully green. And also this agave, which tends to need a bit of shade, strangely. Just compare that agave to the parent plant, which is over here in full sun. The junior one certainly has more vibrant colours. Some hydrangeas also need a bit of shade as well. So this one is in flower and looking quite nice. And behind it we have Hydrangeas cardinalis, which has done so much better since I brought it into the shade. The same applies for this Hydrangeas over here, Leucotricha I think it's called. Now this was struggling when I had it in full sun, but this year where I have it just under the canopy of a couple of different plants, the leaves have grown so big and lush, and this is one that really has fantastic leaves, so it's great to see. And it had amazing orange flowers earlier on too, which have gone now at this stage. I'm just going to put this cloth back now before we deal with the rest of the plants on the shelf. And I mean, it seems a bit overkill on an overcast day like this, but you never know what the day is going to hold. The sun comes up and it scorches things, and then it goes down again, and you think you needn't have bothered with the shade cloth at all. Of course, this begs a few questions. What is the point of having a collection like this if you can't see it, if it's not in plain view, if you have to pull back a curtain to get a look at it? So let's move on up, looking at the plants on the floor here, which are the big ones. And one immediately jumps out at us. It's this one with the fantastic white flower. Now you can probably tell immediately it's from the Amaryllis family. In fact, it's a cross between Amaryllis and Brunsvigia, both South African varieties. And there's a very funny story about this, because this sneakily came into flower. It was on the staging underneath where all the other dormant bulbs were, and then sneaky sent up a long spike that went behind the shelving and kind of came out behind a group of pots. I only saw it by accident when I was in here cleaning up, and somehow managed to extricate it without breaking the spike. And here's the understory where all those plants that are dormant hang out, like my Amaryllis before it sprung into flower. See what a very long spike it has that worked its way up the back of the shelving, unbeknownst to me. And just beside it we have a Scilla bulb, which is very difficult to see because it has a long spike and a long flower head. And just so that you can see the spike, I'll touch the very top of it. It's quite a pretty little thing with a kind of lopsided appearance, because it's like the open flowers travel up the spike. They close down below, and then you get this cluster right here in the middle with buds at the top that are waiting to open. And further over we have other plants in the Amaryllis family that are coming into bud. And over here in the corner we have the Strelitzia, or bird of paradise, who is out in the greenhouse for the summer. And just look how much it's grown since last year. So now let's just have a little look at what's on the shelf in pots. We have a Crassula looking good and coming into flower. That deep orangey red colour is just the best. The blooms aren't open yet, but they are going to be magnificent and mouth-watering when they do. We have a few cactuses that have come and been and gone. and 2 beautiful summer flowering hyacinthus, which we've missed, but I'll put a photograph in here of what they were like when they're in bloom. And we have a few waking up. This is a Veltimia, the yellow Veltimia, which is just waking up from its slumber. Well, that's about it for the glass house. So I tell you what, let's head on over now to the greenhouse so I can give you an update on the seeds I sowed recently, the hydrangeas I propagated last year, and my grapevine. Okay, so here we are in the greenhouse, and we're going to look first at the seeds I sowed recently because I do have some updates. These, of course, are the delphinium seeds I sowed recently, and I only have 2 pots still left in the box because there's been kind of erratic germination in these. Only a few seedlings come up, but look at the other ones. These are the other ones that germinated. The salvias came up first, nice and healthy, and then we had some delphiniums and we had some snapdragons, and these are looking all quite healthy. We still have seedlings popping up in some of the pots. I just need to make sure that they're well watered now that the lid is taken off them and they're not in the box any longer. It really is a bit of a mess in here, but that's what this greenhouse is all about. It's where I do things, and you'll see from the various plants that I have here waiting to go in the ground that I was plant shopping. Well, you saw the video. You saw the video about the 24 perennials I recently bought. Here's a beautiful water-loving salvia, which is just coming into flower, but my goodness, it's a difficult thing to keep up with this plant's watering needs. So what did I want to show you in here? Yes, I wanted to show you the hydrangeas I propagated last year. Here are some of them. So this will show you how much growth you can get from propagating just one summer. So these are exactly 1 year old. We've got 2 types of hydrangea here. We've got paniculata and we've also got lace cap ones. And I wanted to end this video by showing you my grapevine and picking a bunch of grapes with you. Now, if you've followed the channel for a while, you'll recall when I planted this grapevine about 2 years ago. And I planted it outside the greenhouse, and through a hole, the vine came into the greenhouse, and I trained it along the roof, not letting it fruit or flower for until this year for the first time, because I wanted it to put its energy into growing those roots strong rather than kind of, dealing with fruit. And this year we've had the first fruits, 4 bunches of grapes. This is number 3, and they are so delicious. This is Black Hamburg is the variety. It has seeds in it, but it's so sweet. Absolutely delicious. Highly recommended. Excuse me. I was just having a moment there, scoffing all the grapes before my family can get their hands on them. But yeah, so it's definitely worthwhile growing a grapevine in Ireland in a greenhouse if you have the space for it. And I'm so delighted I did. And it's worth waiting. It's worth waiting until it's the right time to let it produce the fruits. And yeah, and I'm very delighted with how this has turned out. If you're interested in doing a grapevine yourself, then I'll link at the end of this video to my video where I planted mine. And I guess with that in mind, it kind of brings me to the end of this greenhouses update video. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you found it useful. I hope you're sowing your own delphiniums and, you know, planting your own grapes and who knows, propagating hydrangeas, although it might be a little bit late in the day for that. But it's all to do, and that's the wonderful thing about gardening. There are just so many possibilities of things that we can do and that brighten our spirits and make our hobby all worthwhile. Thanks as always for watching, and I'll see you on the next video. Bye!